What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly Sports History for June 29th, 2023. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Eid Mubarak for all of my friends out there celebrating. Enjoy. Quick update from yesterday before I get into today's episode. David Bell is the manager of the Reds. We talked about him hitting for the cycle yesterday. And I said I wasn't sure. I knew he was, but yes, he still is the manager for the Cincinnati Reds. All right, let's hop right into the Flyers. Overall, I think my first draft watching experience, I think, went well. Before we get into the picks, just some things about the coverage. Megan Chayka, who is basically the female Mel Kiper, she actually started her own stat company for the NHL. She was phenomenal, and she did it without yelling. She did it without arguing. Her kind of where she was thinking the teams were going to pick, she was on point. I think the NFL could take some notes from that. Again, I usually watch the NHL Network or NFL Network for the NFL draft, but this was on ESPN, and I think coverage-wise, I thought they did a decent job. But she was just very, very on point and much better than anything I've ever seen from Mel Kiper. Also, one thing, too, and I don't know if they always do this or because this was my first time watching, but I kind of like how the whole front office sort of comes up. They have all the tables set up, and I don't know if, that's where their war room is or it's just sort of somebody, I don't know. But, it was just crazy how they were all on the floor, and then the whole front office, like a gang, went up to the stage and announced the pick, which was, I thought was pretty cool. It's kind of like, hey, welcome to our team. I would have liked to see maybe the coach. But overall, I was satisfied with the coverage, and I thought it was pretty cool. At the 7th pick, the Flyers did get Matvei Mishkov. And everybody kept saying of how much it was a steal. Basically, kind of like a Howie Roseman type deal. And just, he can't come over. He's playing in Russia, so he's unable to come over. I believe it's for 3 years. And everybody was like, that's what basically caused him to drop. And, I mean, it is what it is. They're kind of in a rebuild, so why not let him play some of those the talented guys in Russia and let the Flyers do their rebuild, and then when they got some talent around him, bring him over. I don't have a problem with that at all. I think it was the right move, and I'm excited to see it. And again, it's like a Howie Roseman. Jalen Carter fell in Howie's lap. Mishkov basically fell in the Flyers' lap. They had to take him, and I'm okay with it. It's 3 years, kind of gives him time to grow. He's only 18, so he has that 3-year contract in the KHL. Let him finish that out and come over. I do have to say that they were saying that Danny Briere looked like a young Paul McCartney. But he looked like he was all business, man. He wasn't smiling. He was just like, let me make the pick and get back to wheeling and dealing, which I like. At number 22, they took a defenseman, Oliver Bonk. His dad was a player, Radek Bonk. I actually remember, you remember a name like that. He's kind of, it was a solid pick. They needed some defensemen in their pipeline, so he has that NHL pedigree. And he's only going to get better. They said he's been working on his playmaking. So overall, not a bad draft for the Flyers. Today is rounds 2 through 7. So hopefully this is where they do some wheeling and dealing. And just like the NFL, this is where you build your team. So my first foray into the NHL draft, I would say, was a successful one. So let's hopefully Danny Briere keeps that razor sharp focus and pulls channels his inner Howie Roseman today. All right, quick Eagles update. It's been a while since we've talked about them, but Brandon Graham was on a podcast the other day and basically said what we all were saying after the Super Bowl, that the Chiefs' offensive line, in his words, were blessed that the field was slick and whatnot, because it did affect, especially there in the second half, it did affect their ability to get to the quarterback. But, I mean, it's over now. I'm sure somebody asked him about it. People were making a big deal. It's a slow news day. However, one of the other podcasts I listened to, the Bostonian versus the Book, they were discussing the fact that since the Super Bowl is in Vegas this year and the grass is sort of maintained and cared for the same way as the one in Arizona, that it's something to kind of monitor and keep an eye on and prepare for as we get up for this Super Bowl. But I mean, at this point, we had to get some Eagles news on there, so why not? Obviously, Kelsey's down in Sea Isle doing his weekend at the shore for the Eagles Autism Foundation. Looks like it was a good time. But other than that, no news from the Eagles is good news. Phil's won again. They've officially taken that series from the Cubs. They play again today. Nola was not his best, but just like with Wheeler the other day, the offense was able to pick him up. Sosa, Harrison, and Castellanos all hit home runs. Castellanos has just been an absolute stud this year. I like Sosa and Harrison off the bench too. Pache played, and they were able to just kind of come in and not miss a beat. Very reminiscent of the 08 team where it didn't matter who you put in. You didn't miss a beat. So 8-5 Phil's win. Looking to sweep the Cubs today out in Wrigley. Also, I did see the update on Bryce. He's progressing pretty well at first base. And hopefully the plan is to get him at first base by the sometime in July to open up the DH spot to put Schwarber in there. And then it allows them to sort of shop around for an outfielder at the trade deadline. But obviously all of it is dependent upon his health and how he's able to go. But we'll see. I mean, I know they were talking a lot about it on the broadcast recently. Him getting in the field will actually help his hitting because he has something else to worry about, and he's not going to be inside his head just thinking about what his last at-bat was. So hopefully his elbow holds up, and that'll come. All right. Reluctantly, Sixers update. Tobias took a shot at casual Sixers fans and said they would trade me for a box of crumble cookies, which crumble cookies are good. But it's kind of one of those things, man, like just keep your mouth shut. Like it never ends well. And as you're going to see in this day in Philly sports history, it just never goes well when athletes in Philly speak out against the fans, especially in this case because Toby, I don't know if you realize this or not, but before you came to the Sixers, you were not that assassin scorer as your dad said. So it's not like the Sixers are not using you right. I guess the Clippers weren't using you right. I mean, Doc was the coach. So was it Doc Rivers not using you right? Now Nick Nurse all of a sudden comes in and you're going to be the next Michael Jordan? I don't know. But speaking of the Sixers and Toby, be sure to check out the latest Back to the Future dropped yesterday. We take a look. Free agency starts tomorrow in the NBA. We took a look at the Sixers' top best and worst free agents picks of all time. Toby could possibly be in there. Made sure my feelings were known about Toby. So be sure to check that out. It's Back to the Future with a PH wherever you get your podcasts as well as YouTube. And if you still haven't done so, check out the previous episode where kind of lay out the groundwork, go over the brackets for Philly's Lovable Loser tournament, Philly Sports Most Lovable Loser tournament, which starts on Saturday. Looking forward to that. I've got to start prepping for that today since I am in a wedding tomorrow. But I'm really, really looking forward to that. Be sure to get your votes and everything in for that. In preparation for Sixers free agency, the Flyers draft, the Phillies getting ready to sweep the Cubs, the Eagles making another run to the Super Bowl, be sure to go to phillygoat.com. Check out their selection of Philly sports apparel. I'm wearing the Philly Fanatic shirt today. They do have kid sizes in this. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off your order. Like I said, go. They have gift certificates, whatever. It's a great conversation piece. Buy yourself a couple t-shirts to take down to the shore with you on vacation. Make sure they have the goat on the sleeve to make sure it's authentic. But phillygoat.com, use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off of your order. All right, so we mentioned what Toby said. Speaking of dumb things to say about Philly fans, we're going to go back to June 29th of 1985 today. And the Montreal Gazette published an interview they did with Mike Schmidt. The Phillies were up in Montreal for a 3-game series. And Mike Schmidt said, and I quote, "Whatever I've done in my career now, I would have done a great deal more if I had played in Los Angeles or Chicago, you name a town. A place where the fans were just grateful to have me around." Obviously, that went as well as you would have thought it would have went. The fans definitely ripped him for that, and I don't know if he was frustrated because the 85 team was not that good. He was nearing the end of his career. A lot of his friends were starting to retire or get traded away. The window definitely for the Phillies to win was closed there. Obviously, somebody got to him, and he did soften his stance. He did apologize. I think it was more of a frustration thing. But this shows you where Philly is a very forgiving town. Obviously, people get frustrated. Look at Alec Boehm last year. And he's like, I hate this fucking place. And they were able to come out, and all of a sudden he was a hero in that World Series run. So Mike Schmidt apologized. The next home game on July 1st, he comes out with a long dark wig and sunglasses trying to hide. And the fans cheered and gave him a standing ovation. So it showed that he got it. But, man, what a dumb thing to say. And, I mean, Jimmy Rollins was in the same boat. He came at Phillies fans a couple times, but he owned it. Boom, he owned it. And, and that's all we ask. Just be accountable for your actions, because we all say dumb things when we're frustrated. Especially when it's like June or July and you're in the middle of a losing season where your team has no shot. You're a Hall of Famer. So just own it and go with it. So Mike Schmidt was able to overcome it. But on this day, the Montreal Gazette posted the article the interview with him where he basically said, I would have been more appreciated and done more in a better town where they appreciated me. And I know I talked about this somewhat the other day, but I think Mike Schmidt falls into that category of like an Allen Iverson, Donovan McNabb, Ryan Howard, who we didn't really appreciate what we had until he was gone. And I think I might have another episode, or there might be an episode of Back to the Future coming on this, because I think in this town we tend to underappreciate our athletes a lot. All right. So rivalry month is winding down. We have 2 more days, and to me, it's 2 of the biggest rivals in Philly sports. No particular order, but you guys know how I feel. The Giants, to me, are the bigger rival than the Cowboys. But today we're going to talk about the Cowboys. Obviously, the Cowboys lead 73-55 all time, including 3-1 in the postseason. I'm surprised that there's no ties. I just... Random thought. I'm surprised there are no ties in this series. Obviously, I mean, I don't know where to begin, and I could do probably 2 hours, and we have, if you go back through the archives of Back to the Future, there is a Dallas rivalry episode. But I mean, what can I say that hasn't already been said? I mean, you had the old school NFL film guys, Dallas, we hate you. You did have one of the biggest moments was Wilbert Montgomery's run in the 80 NFC Championship game to get the Eagles to the Super Bowl. The Buddy Ryan versus Jimmy Johnson, and Tom Landry, like the fake kneel, running up the score with the replacement players, the Bounty Bowls. Michael Irvin's career ended at the Vet, and then, of course, Philly fans cheered. You had that 44-6 miracle, Eagles getting into the playoffs that year, I believe. I forget what year it was. It might have been, that wasn't 08. Was it? Whatever it was. And then they beat the Cowboys, and then all those other things kind of broke for them. McNabb played his last game in AT&T Stadium when he was doing the fake guitar. Again, there's just so much to talk about. The hatred is there, and I don't want people to think, oh, Jim likes the Cowboys. No. I don't like the Cowboys. I just don't like the Giants more than I don't like the Cowboys. But the rivalry, it's always there. This is one of the NFL's favorite rivalries, because when both teams are good together, it's great for TV. The Eagles, people probably, outside of Philly or Dallas probably view it as like the Yankees Red Sox. It's like, oh great, the Yankees and Red Sox are on Sunday night football or Sunday night baseball game. Just like every year the Eagles Cowboys always get a Sunday night football game. They're probably like, here we go, Philly Dallas, blah 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 blah. But it is one of those rivalries that you ask my kids, they know you don't like the team with the star. Now they know they're the Cowboys, and they're like, why don't we like them? I'm like, we just don't. And they don't ask questions. They just boo them and just go with it. So it's one of this rivalry more so than any other rivalry in Philly. It's bred into it's your birthright. You don't like Dallas. Like you're born. Doctor says congratulations, it's a boy, and then you've seen the picture of the little kid giving the finger. That's basically what you do. Like F Dallas. Dallas sucks. That's your first words. So obviously I'm going to score this a 5 out of 5. If I could go higher, I would. But Dallas sucks, and like I'm getting all fired up just thinking about it. Like on Sundays when I used to go to the grocery store, see a guy in a Troy Aikman jersey one time, I wanted to tackle him in the middle of ShopRite, and I had to restrain myself because my son was a baby and he was there with me. So we had to. Didn't want to get arrested with my son in the cart, the shopping cart. But that's just what this rivalry is. So we'll give it a 5 out of 5. Dallas sucks. You all know what tomorrow's rivalry is, but Dallas sucks. On this day, back in 1985, Mike Schmidt pissed off Philly fans, later apologized in an article in the Montreal Gazette. Flyers back at it today, rounds 2 through 7. Let's get this rebuild started, Danny. Philly's looking for the sweep of the Cubs. Be sure to go to phillygoat.com. Go buy your crumble cookies for Tobias Harris because he is an assassin, allegedly. Hopefully we'll have an update on what James Harden's going to do within the next day or so. Just a lot going on. I mean, it's nobody's playing but the Phillies, but there's a lot going on in Philly sports right now. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History. I'm Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Thursday, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.